Hello and welcome back to Fred in the Shed. We're up in the Radio Shack. I hope you're well. Now on this channel you know that we like to do shortwave radio reviews. So you're saying, Fred, why are you holding a rather nice video player in your hand? Well, this is the SANSUI F51, and along with being a 7-inch display video player, also is a radio. It has a 3-band radio tuner. We have FM, medium wave and broadcast shortwave all in one convenient unit. It's available on Banggood, and when I saw the price of this, and that's the main reason I've really got it into the shack, just to see what it's like. When I saw the price, I couldn't believe how cheap it was. With my discount, which you'll find below in the description, with my discount this comes in at £35. It's quite incredible, isn't it? So you're going to say to me, Fred, well, what's the catch? It's got to be rubbish for £35. There isn't really a catch. It works. It really does. And it sounds good as well. Compromises. Yes, there are a few compromises. Do they make it worthwhile, even at this really, really affordable price? Well, that's what we'll find out when we dig in a little bit deeper in the review. So stick with the video and let's have a look at this rather cheap but pretty amazing SANSUI F51. Firstly, I'd just like to do a quick unboxing because I think it's important to see what you get because it is very, very cheap. The name SANSUI, you may remember that in the UK if you're old enough, because in the late 80s and the 90s there were budget hi-fi products and radios featuring that name. Unfortunately, that company is long gone. This is just a name that's carried on. It is a Chinese product. It doesn't pretend to be a Western product. That might be a bit of a compromise for some people. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. Okay, let's open the box. It does come in rather a nice box, not just a cheap cardboard box that you might expect. Very nicely packed. You do get a little box of spare parts here, and including the batteries, which is really important because it comes with 3 18650 cells, 1200 mAh, and they are removable. And that's so important because I have bought budget little tablets before and they last a couple of years and the battery dies and you can't replace them. With this you can replace the batteries. You also get in the box a USB-C charging lead, as you would expect, and then a tiny little screwdriver as well. That undoes the screw on the back of the unit for changing the batteries. So it's a nice little touch, isn't it, for £35. Then we come to the unit itself. Now, instruction wise, yeah, all of the instructions on this radio are in Chinese. You can translate this. I know if you've got Google Translate or an app on your phone, that's absolutely fine. I went online and very quickly I found an English printed guide. This is sort of a startup guide which gets you going, because when you turn on the radio for the first time, all of the menu options are in Chinese, but you don't have to worry because it's only a few button presses and you can change that into English. I'll link this in the description if I remember, but it's very useful to download. Now, as I say, this is £35. I wasn't really expecting a lot, but first impressions on the unit, it does not feel like a cheap device. Yes, it is obviously made out of plastic, but it has this rather nice fake leather carrying handle. And I'll be honest with you, if you was on a plane or you was on a long say railway journey or something, I wouldn't feel embarrassed about getting this out of my bag and sitting there and using it. It does not look like a cheap device at all. 7-inch screen, LCD screen, really, really sharp. I don't know how it'll come across on camera in a moment, but it's actually a really, really sharp screen. First thing you might notice about this screen is it's very reflective. That might be an issue if you want to use it, say, sitting outside in a garden on a bright summer's day. Probably not the best at that, but if you use it in a slightly darker environment, it's absolutely fine once the unit gets going. When you look at the design of the unit, I think it's quite attractive, but it's split into two really. This side is your media player, 7-inch screen. It's not capacitive, it's not a touch screen, which is a bit of a shame. You have to navigate via the menu buttons. A little bit old-fashioned, and this is not a streaming device. You cannot connect this to your internet. There's no Wi-Fi, which means you have to download your videos onto a tiny little transflash card or an SD card, and there is 2 slots. There's one here and there's one underneath. Now, I've tried this with 32, 64 and 128 gigabyte cards, and it reads them absolutely no problem. There is no built-in hard drive, but you wouldn't expect it at this price. And on this side of the device, mostly it's taken up by the radio. And then what is good as well is when you transfer from the media player to the radio, the media player completely shuts down, which is good because it saves the drain on the 18650 batteries, but also the backlight switches off, which could cause RF interference on the radio, especially on shortwave. So that, I think, is a good feature. Quick look round the radio then. We have a basic numerical keypad here. You can type in the radio frequencies. You will notice that there are 3 buttons here in Chinese. It's not really a big issue. You certainly work out what they're for. This is basically a back button. This takes you into different menus, and this is a simple button that switches the device from radio to media. And that's really about it. Everything else is clear and simple. Moving on to this side of the device here. Simple on-off switch, headphone jack, 3.5mm. Unfortunately, although the radio has Bluetooth, you can use this as a Bluetooth speaker. It's not two-way. You cannot use Bluetooth earbuds or headphones, which is a bit of a shame, to be honest, but that's fine. DC 5V USB-C for charging the built-in batteries. USB socket there for using video files, and little TF card there, and like I say, another little TF card on the back. Top of the radio, 2 knobs on the radio. They're in Chinese, but don't worry about that. One is the VFO tuning for the radio, and one is the volume. You don't really have to know what they're for as far as the writing goes. On the back of the radio, well, surprisingly, we have a really large rear speaker, and it sounds pretty decent as well. I'll show you that in a minute. I was really quite surprised at that. Then we have a little pull-out stand. Now, this really did surprise me. Now, you know, with other radios, I've criticised them for having a bit of a weak, flimsy pull-out stand. This is incredibly tough. It's also, if I can show you, it's double layered. I don't know if that's coming out on video, a bit hard to see, but it's very thick. It's double layered, screwed together, and when you use it on a bench, very, very solid, very stiff, so you can adjust it and get the exact angle that you want. And other radio manufacturers should really take note. This is how you do make a pull-out stand. Really, really good. Yeah, that click, really good, high quality. It's amazing to find it on such a cheap product. Battery compartment, so under that screw, you need to put the batteries in yourself. So you've got 3 18650, 1200 mAh batteries. Video time, they say it run up to about 6 hours using it as a video player. I haven't really tested that. There was no need. 53 centimetre whip antenna for the FM and the shortwave band. Nothing really on this side. You've got a slight rubberized finish to the device. Again, it just doesn't feel cheap. It really doesn't. Right, let's switch it on and see what it does. Switch unit on, simple on-off switch on the side. Now, it plays this video track when it boots up, and it plays this, unfortunately, every time that you switch it on or you go to the video player. It does get a little annoying, I will be honest, but here it comes. It's all very, very clear. Very, very clear screen, 7-inch. Then when the menu comes on, so it boots up. So you've got a very, very basic menu. This will all be in Chinese when you get the device. And like I say, simple, just to go into the settings. Now, it's not a touch screen. If it was capacitive, it would be a little bit better, but it's a bit old school. You just have to negotiate with the arrows here. far as music goes, this will be where you'll find all of your MP3 tracks. It also will play things like audiobooks. Now, there's a whole variety of different formats that it will play on the MP3, including MP3, WAV and FLAC files. When it comes down to video, I'm using MP4, but it does movie, AVI, MPEG, and I think there's about 4 or 5 others. Now then, when it comes down to video, this is a bit of a compromise, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video. The unit claims to be able to play up to 1080p video. Now, what I found when I downloaded some YouTube videos in 1080p, I found that after about 3 or 4 minutes, it started stuttering, and on a few videos, it completely stopped and shut down. So I think it's either the processor or it's maybe the memory hasn't got the memory to play 1080p. However, it does play perfect 720p. And on this 7-inch screen, I'll be honest with you, you can't really tell the difference between 1080 and 720. So when you download, I would recommend you use MP4 720p. It seems to work absolutely fine. A few things that you can explore on the menu. It's very basic, as I say, it's nothing to worry about really. Bluetooth, yeah, it is only one way. You can use this as a Bluetooth speaker connected to your phone, but it doesn't go the other way, unfortunately. Battery, yeah, in here you've got things like the display, for example. You can set how the backlight brightness. You can also set how long you want the display to remain on to save the battery, things like that. To go back, you just press that button there. Takes you right back to the menu. Can use it as a photo viewer. eBook reader, yeah, you can review text files, basic text files. I personally just like reading ebooks on a Kindle. I'm not really into reading ebooks on a laptop or an iPad. I find it strains my eyes. Basic browser here. This just would take you into the TF card files there, and then tools, which is just basically the settings. You can set the volume here for maximum, minimum volume. You can also change the file order that you wish to display your files in. The language setting, this is where you will change that into English, and then advanced format card, basically reset to default settings, things like that. So it's very basic, very easy to understand. Now, as far as the videos go, when you first insert a card, a little TF card in the side here, it automatically starts playing, as you will see. Now, there's not too much I can show you on here because of copyright issues. Let me just take the overhead lights off. So we're just going to take the volume down here, because before I forget here, I can show you my own videos in a second. I mean, I don't know how it's coming across on screen, but it is really, really crystal clear. As I say, it's 720p, but you wouldn't know it. It certainly looks like 1080p. And it's a simple case. If you want to go on to your next video, you could go through the browser if you want, or just... But I know I sound like a woodpecker here. You sort of see the idea. You just have to sort of push this and gently tap this into position. Yeah, this was please excuse the shorts. It was very, very hot out on the patio. This was a video arcade machine that I built about 10 years ago. There is a series of videos of this on the channel. But yeah, it works really, really well on 720p. This is an old recording that I made, but it looks really, really sharp on the screen. I hope that comes out on the video, and it sounds really good as well. Strip all of the screen out, get the hoover and the microporous cloths around, and make sure I get all of this dust out. So I've got a little bit of work on, but overall I'm so pleased that that T-moulding has now been fitted, and it just makes all the difference. So there we go. That's finally it. Hey, yay! I finally finished the cab, and yeah, that's the. This was a little benchtop arcade machine that I built. Looks like my stepson's going to inherit that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how it comes across on the camera, but it's really, really sharp. I say we're on 720p downloads, and this was quite an old video. I don't find any issues. Now, I don't know if you know how to download YouTube videos. I use DVD Studio. It's a free program that you can try. I think if you want to download longer videos, you have to purchase it. It's around about €20. I think. I've had mine for a long time, but that works really, really well. So that's the video player. No problems at all with YouTube videos, and I think now we'll go ahead and we can have a look at the radio. I've brought the machine downstairs because I hit a little problem up in the shack with interference, and I'll come back to that in a moment because I think it's more likely to be the machine. So when we come down to the radio tuner, as I mentioned, the video side of things all shuts down completely, which is good. It's a fairly basic tuner, has the 3 bands here, shortwave, medium wave and FM, broadcast only of course. Now when it comes to tuning the radio, you have a manual VFO. Oh, I'm sorry, by the way, when the backlight goes on, it just blows out on the camera. It has a very, very bright blue backlight, and you can see it okay with your eyes, but the camera really doesn't like it. So as I was saying, it'll turn off in a second, there it goes. So you've got the manual tuning just with the VFO there. The radio, I believe, is supposed to seek and search, and you do that by holding down the back and forth button here. I found that every time I took my finger off, it seemed to stop. That didn't work. But more interesting, it has a search to memory function, which I think is quite useful. So for example, I won't do it in FM, but if we're in FM, if you hold down the FM key there, it will search all the way up the broadcast band, and then any stations that it finds, it'll automatically bank those in memories, and then you just use the forward and back key here to go through what stations you find. It's not very quick, and it will take an awful long time on shortwave because it will go right the way through from 2.2 megahertz all the way up to its top frequency, which I can't remember on the top of my head. So it's going to take a little while, but certainly quite useful. Now then, I have hit a slight problem, a bit of a compromise. On FM, when I was up in the shack, and I thought it might be different down here, it just seems that whatever radio station I tune to, there's a background hiss that I can't seem to lose. I'll show you that in a second, but it's almost like the automatic gain control is just going a little bit haywire. Doesn't affect it on medium wave, and doesn't affect it on shortwave. Let me just demonstrate that on FM. Right, I've zoomed in, so hopefully the backlight will be manageable by the camera now. So here we are, 89.1 FM. This is Radio 2, and the transmitting station is only about 7 miles away, so it's a very strong signal. But even so, with such a strong signal, I'm still getting a bit of a hiss in the background. Let me show you.
Those who cannot be trusted to work with women, or those who cannot be trusted to enter the homes of vulnerable people. It is
I can't tune it out.
But we cannot lawfully sack them.
The Chelsea and Sam Kerr has been cleared of racially aggravated harassment at Kingston Crown Court. The striker was arrested after calling a police officer stupid and wild.
But unfortunately, it's there on every station. If I tune up to Radio 4, which again is a very strong station, which is 3.5, got the same problem. And it just seems to be there on all of the FM, all the FM tuning. Yeah, so that's a bit of a disappointment for FM, I must admit. Medium wave, it does a lot better. Now we can demonstrate this scan to memory bank feature now. When I do go into the scan, you're going to lose the display for a moment, but it will come back when the backlight comes off. So what you do is you just simply hold down medium wave there, and the radio is now going through a series of scans. When it reaches a strong station, it'll automatically pause and then puts that into a memory bank. Very, very useful. I say it will take a long time on shortwave. You have to walk away, maybe have a cup of tea or something. But as you can see there. Now, whether that's finding stations or interference, we'll find out in just a moment. But it's finding plenty of stuff there on medium wave. For a budget radio, that seems to be doing okay. It's going to be finished in a second, and then we can have a listen, find out what it's found. There we go, back to the beginning. So let's turn up the volume. Let's go through.
08085 999 on the WhatsApp. You want to send us a voice note? You can text 85058 and we'll have a think tank thinking about that.
Interference. Interference.
It's basically the thing that the whole of the internet knows everything, all knowledgeable, so it shouldn't. Vibes in Elon 9%. Elon 9%. That was classy. Yeah. Elon, you can have me forever. Oh, just with Elon, please, Elon.
So I don't think that's too bad, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I've had other radios that haven't done really much better on medium wave in here, bearing in mind we're indoors. So yeah, the medium wave performance I think is acceptable. Right, I'm going to do a scan on shortwave, bearing in mind we're indoors with just the antenna up, and then we'll have a listen, see what it picks up.
Now and they lose their, they have to write it off. So I think there's actually a great deal of concern, in my opinion, on the Chinese side that the United States will not hold up its obligations, or that they will only hold up those obligations for, say, a 4
Gazze ile ilgili, Gazze'nin geleceği ile ilgili tepki çeken açıklamalar.
Klaus Iohannis, Daniela Budu a fost alături de noi. Vă spuneam că a fost promulgat bugetul pe 2025, aspect pe care îl abordăm în minutele următoare.
I think like the idea that China is this country on the brink of collapse, I mean, it's fringe. It's become a fringe idea because I don't think it serves America's interest. Cost savings in the Chinese system, which the Chinese supply chain allowed that. So everything they created the original idea in the U.S. They go to China.
I think it did okay. I mean, it picked up the big players like Radio China, I think it's Radio Beijing as well. It is a bit of a funny time. This is about 2 o'clock in the afternoon in the UK. You really need to do shortwave when the sun goes down. But for casual shortwave radio listening, just to try and catch the news in another country or something, I think that's that's acceptable. It's on par with some of the budget shortwave radios that we've tested. Just a shame about the FM. Not quite sure what's going on there, but obviously it's not happy receiving FM. So, conclusion time. What do we think of this little SANSUI F51? Well, as a radio, not a great deal, to be perfectly honest. For some reason, I don't know why we got that hiss on the FM, but that killed the FM. Medium wave average. I think, to be fair, on shortwave, now it tunes from 2.3 up to 22 megahertz, and with its built-in antenna, it picked up the main players, the main large shortwave stations. So I think for casual listening on shortwave, it's absolutely fine. But what you're really going to buy this for is for video, and I think it's an ideal YouTube download player. Now, resolution, as I mentioned, it is 720p. Which I know a few of you in the world of 4K, you're going to think, oh, that's rubbish, Fred. But I'll be honest with you, it looks really good on this 7-inch screen. It's really bright and it's really clear. It seems to like MP4 format. I did try a couple of WAV files on it, and it was a little bit unsure about that. So it just seems to like 720 MP4, which isn't bad, because if you download YouTube, then the size of the files, like megabyte size, they'll be quite small, and you'll get absolutely stacks, hours and hours of video playback on the 2 the 2 cards that you can put in it, even if you just put 32GB cards in, like I have. And the battery life seems really, really good. It's something that might suit the kids as well. I wish I'd had a couple of these to take away when we used to go on holiday, especially camping with the kids. And it rained a couple of times and the kids were shut in a tent all day bickering. Well, for £35 each, we could just sort of load these up with their favourite cartoons, their favourite movies or whatever. I would have kept them quiet. And as I say, the battery life is really, really good. Those 318-650s, they say 6 hours, and I've been playing with this for 2 days now, and it hasn't dropped a bar. So yeah, maybe it really would go 6 hours. So yeah, for me personally, I'll be using this on holiday, so I won't be interfering with the bandwidth on the Wi-Fi when we go away. And yeah, something quite useful, but certainly for the kids, to keep the young kids quiet. And I think the bottom line comes down to the price, doesn't it, really? I mean, it is, I think, ridiculously cheap. About £40 full price on Banggood. And I say with my discount code at the moment I'm making this video brings it down to £35, which is amazingly cheap for something that doesn't really look that cheap at all. So I hope this video has been useful to you. You might have a use for a cheap device like this. If so, the links to this from Banggood are in the description along with that discount code. But anyway, I'd like to say thank you for sticking with the video. I really do appreciate your view time on Fred in the Shed. I'm only a small channel. I don't get that many views per video. So cheers. I really appreciate you dropping by. As always, please, please, please stay safe, look after each other, and of course, I will catch you on the next video. Cheers, guys.
Fred's in the shed where the magic unfolds. Fred in the shed with his trusty CB. He's a friend to the lonely on a frequency.